give our Lord to learn more about you. I pray, Lord, that today as I speak, that you may speak through me, Lord, and that you may empty me, Lord, and use me as your vessel, Lord, for your glory. I pray these things in your mighty name. Jesus' name I pray. Today, I wanted to speak on the refining fire of God. In Malachi, verse 3, if you could find it. It says, "He will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer to the Lord an offering in righteousness." Fire is usually seen as a substance of destruction and something that's like so scary, and it destroys things. But the refining fire that I'll be talking about today, it is used to melt and remove all of impurities. So it does not destroy, but it removes of impurities or impure metals. That's what the refining fire is. The refining fire is used to refine silver. So a piece of silver is held over the fire for it to heat up, and the silver has to be held in the middle because that's where the flames are the hottest, for it to burn away all the impurities on the silver. The refiner, the person that's doing the refining, has to sit there in front of the fire the whole time the silver is being refined. Not only the refiner has to sit there, but he also has to keep his eyes on the silver while it's in the fire. Because if it's left a little too long in the fire, then the silver would be destroyed. But the whole purpose is not to destroy the silver, but for the impurities to clean the impurities on the silver. However, the refiner will know that the silver is fully refined is when he sees his image in the silver. Amen. The Bible uses the process of refining silver as an example of what it's like for God to refine us. In the beginning of the verse, it says, "He will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi." Amen. At the earlier chapters of Malachi, it talks about how God was upset because priests would come offering impure sacrifices to him. God said that they didn't show reverence or honored him as God and as their Father, and they despised the name of the Lord. So one of the purposes of God refining them is to restore the worship of his people to something worth accepting. This verse says he will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. This verse tells me that God sees us as silver and gold regardless of our impurities. That's how much God values us. He sits as a refiner to remove of our impurities. This also shows God's patience with us and God's grace to us. He doesn't just throw us in the fire, just leave us there, but he sits there, he watches us while we're in the fire. In the same way, this is how God refines us. He allows us to go through various trials, not to destroy us, but to shape and mold us into His image.
Amen.
Because we were made in God's image, but we were born into sin, the purpose of His refining fire is to remove of impurities and to make us more beautiful and more like His image.
Amen.
Sometimes when we go through something, we question God. Why? Why me, God? We think He doesn't love us anymore. Little did we know that while we were in the fire, God was watching over us.
Amen.
He has never forsaken us. His eye is upon us that nothing be lost but our impurities. With preparing this message, I thought about what was going on today in the world, and though it's a very difficult time, but we count as a blessing to be able to witness unbelievers and believers turning back to Christ and repenting. In God's refining fire refines us. It doesn't destroy us, but it's to shape us into His image and make us as gold and silver.
Amen.
The last, the end of the verse says that they may offer to the Lord an offering in righteousness. One purpose why God refined the priest is to restore their worship. The priest, like I said earlier, would bring offerings into the Lord's sanctuary, but it was impure. One reason why God refines us is to remove all our impurities, is so that we may offer to the Lord an offering in righteousness, so that we may offer to God ourselves, our bodies and souls, and everything that we do, sacrifices of prayer, praise, fasting, and worship. In everything we offer to God, that we offer to Him in righteousness, in sincerity, and truth. So it makes sense for God to purify us, because He will bring every work into judgment. In 1 Corinthians 3:13, 1 Corinthians 3:13 says, each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, and fire will test each one's work, or what sort it is. God will test if the offering is pure and in truth, because God is a holy God, and our offerings must be pure. So my topic today was about the refining fire. When we go through hardships, God is not punishing us, and He's not destroying us, but He is molding us back to what He created us to be. Before I end my short message, I wanted to read Psalm 66, verse 8 to 12. It says, "Oh bless our God, you people. Oh bless our God, you peoples, and make the voice of His praise be heard. Who keeps our soul among the living, and does not allow our feet to be moved. For you, O God, have tested us. You have refined us as silver is refined. You brought us into the net. You laid affliction on our backs. You have cursed men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out to reach fulfillment." As an encouragement to you, that God knows what He's doing, and He's still in control. Even when we don't understand what God is doing, and we'll never be able to, because our minds are too small to comprehend God. We've got to trust in God and trust the process Jeremiah 29 verse 11 reminds us that his thoughts towards us are of peace and not of evil, to give us a future and a hope.
Yes, amen.
Even when we don't see it or feel it, God is still working. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and so are his ways. We may not understand now, but later on when we reach God's purpose for our life, we will look back and realize that all along, while we were in distress and in the fire, God's intentions were not of evil, but of love for us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.